real conversations, and some hard truths. Gangs, drugs, and guns. Giving a voice to those willing to sacrifice. We have stories that need to be told. We have lessons that need to be taught. Protect and serve. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Hey everybody, welcome back. Nathan Romas with you. Today we are going to talk about operational risks, risk assessment, and tactics. For that, I have Chris Aboussafy here. Chris has over 31 years of law enforcement experience between both Canada and the United States, which was largely served with the Phoenix Police Department, and ending with the Fugitive Apprehension Investigations Detail, or F.A.I.D. Here, Chris co-developed the concept of trapdoor tactics, which focuses on reducing the use of force while effectively apprehending violent offenders. After his law enforcement career in 2023, Chris founded Bishop One, which is a company that strives to enhance law enforcement agencies' abilities to conduct tactical apprehensions of violent offenders through trapdoor tactics while utilizing the why here, why now risk assessment principle. It's also available in book format, the Why Here, Why Now risk assessment without all the clutter. I got mine on Kindle. It was a great read. So we'll get into that as well. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to this for a while now.
Yeah, I'm glad we could get put in touch. Former police officer, I want to say Staff Sergeant Nash put us in touch. So
yeah, he did.
I'm appreciative of that. And I think especially my team is going to get a kick out of this because there's so much overlap between what I read in this book and what our team does, minus a few of the cool tactical type applications. We're not allowed to do that here, but yeah, I think it'll be a really good discussion.
Right on.
So right off the top, we'll kind of talk a bit about you. I think people might be curious about this serving between Canada and the US. So if you want to talk a little bit about yourself, how you got into this whole mess of things, and then, we'll go from there.
Absolutely. It's not a real exciting story. I got to be honest with you. It was a fairly kind of Canadian Gothic childhood I grew up in. I was born in California, and my dad was in the oil industry. So about 5 years old or so, moved to Canada, came up to Edmonton, and he was originally from Edmonton anyways. So I grew up almost my young adult, all through my young adult in Edmonton, and fantastic childhood, great parents, great siblings, great family. I got no trigger trauma to lay my hat on. And then was just, then I went to Lethbridge, did policing there in the community justice program, and graduated from that, and was lucky enough to get onto the old, and it's really a long time now ago, the old Alberta Highway Patrol, and which had just changed its name to Motor Transport Services. Did that for a couple of years out way out east in Vermilion, and which was a culture shock. But then got on to Pigeon Lake Police, just south of town here. Did that for a little while, but I grew up watching the movie Colors. Probably this generation doesn't know what that movie is anymore, but it was the end of Watch of Our Days, right?
Yeah.
And I grew up on Miami Vice, and so I had dual citizenship. So I really wanted the Ferrari and the boat with the alligator. So I said, hey, I'm going to go to the U.S. and went to Reno for a couple of years and worked for the Washington County Sheriffs. And great department. I just didn't like Reno, the city itself, but fantastic department. And then I said, hey, I even want something bigger. So I applied to Phoenix, and 27 years later, that was that. So that's
cool.
Kind of how I got into it. Yeah.
One of the things I guess we'll kind of focus on today too is talking about F.A.I.D. This kind of what a lot of the book focuses on as well. It's kind of in this area. So can you explain what F.A.I.D is or was, and then what it kind of, I guess, grew into? Because this is a lot of the story too.
It is. And, I'm very, very proud of the men and women of that team. So I love to tell the story. I was real happy up the air support unit flying around being a kid every day. I mean, I was so happy. Then I got tapped on the shoulder, which is, you can't not take the job they tell you.
Yeah.
So I took F.A.I.D, and F.A.I.D was going, it had gone through some tough times. A couple years prior, we had a catastrophic event where we lost officer in the middle of an operation who was murdered by the suspect. And they really began to re-examine the tactics being used at that time. So what they did is they moved F.A.I.D under the Tactical Support Bureau. So you had the SWAT team, F.A.I.D, K9, air support, and then I want to say like specialty vehicles and dive team. And yes, Phoenix has a dive team. They're actually very they're actually very busy. But they brought me over there, and Phoenix police, just as I'm sure most police departments have a long memory, and they wanted F.A.I.D fixed, as they called it. Keep in mind now, F.A.I.D had 4 teams, I think 5 at one point, but 4 when I got there, and they're arresting 1,000 to 1,500 people a year. I mean,
That's a crazy rate.
just a
Yeah.
number, yeah, just a numbers generator. But when I came over, the chief pulled me in with a commander who was a very kind of visionary commander. And they said, we don't care about the numbers, because the numbers are what got that detective killed, chasing numbers, and the tactics that go with chasing numbers. So they said, we want it cleaned up. And as you read in the book, it wasn't a suggestion, it was an absolute ultimatum, right? They reduced us down to 1 squad, and that was in the 11th hour, as you read in the book. And we then spent, I had to eat a lot of crow on that one, right? I had to walk down the hallway with my hat in my hand, and go to the SWAT team. And, and there was a big rivalry between the SWAT team and F.A.I.D, just very big. SWAT team felt F.A.I.D was cowboys. F.A.I.D felt the SWAT team was too slow. It was like a battleship group moving into things.
Could I ask too on that? Are some of the issues, were they stemming from like a lack of supervision, or was it the supervision that was there was kind of allowing some careless tactics? Like what would be the issues you would say?
And that's a great question, because the tactics are the easy thing to change. It's the culture that's the hard thing to change. These men and women, and I always call it the old F.A.I.D, right? But, and they hate me for it, but the old F.A.I.D, those men and women did amazing police work and captured very, very dangerous people, very high profile people. And the problem is nobody told them what they were doing was wrong.
Mhm.
Nobody told them to slow down. Nobody told them, hey, no more cowboy kind of bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Like tighten it up. Nobody told them that. All they just kept doing was, hey, you're doing a great job. Get the numbers, get the numbers. We're trying to justify our existence, get the numbers, and that's systemic within our profession, right?
Yep. Very true.
We always have to justify our existence. And so when you throw that into people's lap, they're they're going to hit the turbo, because cops are cops, you know, and they hit the turbo, and they did great police work. But that being said, the times then changed. Management changed, the chiefs changed, and they wanted to move to made more of a covert unit, like an undercover covert unit. They wanted They also did not want the SWAT team rolling out on every single thing, you know. Uh, that was becoming a big issue. They wanted Phoenix, to their credit, looked forward and said, "Hey, we want our operational footprint to be smaller on these type of apprehensions. Do we need to blow up grandma's house for the murder suspect? Or can we wait till the murder suspect comes out of the house, enters our area of apprehension, then take him or her off?"
Mhm.
Right? So they really wanted to lower that community footprint. And when the SWAT team's needed, they're needed. And we have an amazing SWAT team. They still are. But Phoenix really went away from that roll SWAT on everything model.
Yeah.
So the boys and girls on F.A.I.D, when I got there, They didn't know they were doing anything wrong. And then I came along and said, "Hey, you're not doing anything wrong, but we're going to change everything." So,
Yeah.
you know how that message goes across with police officers. So for the next year and a half, uh, we, I really was the bad guy. Really, the team really fought me. They fought the culture shift. They really, yeah, I had to check my car under my car before I left the bureau because man, they were fighting me. But and I think the big one is because the SWAT team was doing some of the training to bring us up to speed with new equipment, new tactics, like their symmetrical tactics.
Yeah.
But I had already started designing asymmetrical tactics for F.A.I.D to use. But you need to be good at the building blocks, and the SWAT team is masters at repetition and structure and building blocks. And I think what we were trying to do mostly was get structure into F.A.I.D because it
Okay.
was fairly non-structured.
Yeah.
So that was the big one.
And you kind of mentioned it a bit earlier, the physical side of it, like the tactics, the hard skills. Those are the easy thing to change, right? I can tell you to just stop, walk in this direction, walk this direction, what to pay attention to. It's the mentality. That's the thing that's hard to change. And I was kind of breaking it down when I was preparing for our discussion here, and I was writing some notes. I just had the risks around F.A.I.D and broken down into like physical and mental. And the mental side, I mean, you've mentioned the ego driven tactics. So it's like, how do you change something like that? And I think a lot of people don't realize this when they go to implement change, all the other things that come along with it, right? You make a decision, okay, we're going to change this tactic, but people want to know why. And then you got to change that ego. It's the culture. It comes right down to the culture of it. So I really like how you're breaking that down. But do you think like the culture, how did you work on changing that specifically? How did you get these people to wrap their minds around it and go, okay, now we're buying into this?
With police, I can speak to police officers. They they don't want to be put in boxes. So they felt I was putting them in a box and trying to make them a mini SWAT team, which I wasn't. I
Mm,
didn't want to be a SWAT team. I wanted to be a F.A.I.D team. To me, sitting on barricades for hours and hours wasn't my style. I like fast, I like fluid, and I like dynamic. So, what I began to kind of introduce after we got the building blocks to get the culture shifting was their numbers were not going to drop. So each team rested 400 to 600 people a year. They felt we were going to, reduce it to 200 to 300 a year, and then the department would get rid of us because we weren't worth it anymore. And I assured them that was not happening. One of the big things, and you hit on with culture, is it has to be supported from above.
yeah.
So before I even began changing the culture of F.A.I.D, I began getting my pieces in alignment above me. So we had a great lieutenant, like I said, and that lieutenant changed to the why here, why now lieutenant, which was fantastic. But before that, we had a very progressive commander who clearly delineated between F.A.I.D and SWAT and the type of missions that each one did. But what I also did was walked up to the chief's office and sat down with the XO, who is the chief that runs the day-to-day operations, and said, "Hey, I'm going to change this culture. You're going to get calls from the association. You're
Yeah.
going to get calls from other supervisors. You're going to hear it all, but you got to trust the method here. I am going to make this team what you told me to make it." And, he was like, "Absolutely." He goes, "I don't care about all the static. I'll get it done or else you're going to go away." So having that alignment from the chief all the way down really makes it easier to change culture, because it's easy to go, "Hey, you don't want to change? Go back to patrol." I don't like that message. I
Hmm.
don't like it because these are very good police officers, right?
I couldn't tell you how many times I've heard that in my time, especially with our gang suppression team. And people will the members that have been in that unit, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about when we were talking about culture change. And if you didn't like it, kind of get the hell out type type deal. So yeah, very good point.
And to me, the real cops are the men and women on patrol. They're grinding it out every day. I used to tell the tactical support bureau guys, whether it was FAID or our SWAT team is called SAU, but FAID or SWAT, I'd say every morning's Christmas morning for you guys.
Hmm.
You show up to work, you got bullets, you got cars, you got rifles, flashbangs, armor, blah, blah, blah. Every morning's Christmas morning. And so start acting like it's Christmas morning. Look forward to coming to work. Consider yourself lucky to be in this bureau with all these men and women who do super cool stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but so the executives were all in line. The team began to switch, and there was a moment, and we were doing a operation, and I was getting kickback. Well, why don't we just go into the restaurant and grab the guy? He's just a cook. Okay, but he's done multiple armed robberies with a firearm. And yeah, he's a cook at a fairly nice restaurant, but he's also doing armed robberies on the side, and we don't know what he has in there. It's also a compressed environment, a lot of people. So we're going to set up. Yeah, he obviously takes the garbage out because we watched him do it twice. So we set up beside the restaurant, and we had to wait a little while.
Yeah.
We just had to wait a little while. And hour and a half later, he comes out on his cell phone carrying the garbage. And then the plan was, executed. So, and he was taken into custody. Nobody was disturbed by it. The people in the restaurants didn't even know what happened.
Hmm.
And he was removed from that community without any armor, without going through the restaurant with guns and disturbing people. And one of the big things is when we were done the apprehension, we leave. We immediately get in the cars and go. No high five and none of that crap.
Yeah.
So that's why the trap door, like when I talk about trapdoor tactics, it's like trapdoor spider.
Hmm.
It just boom, it happens and then it's gone. So
Just before we do jump into the trapdoor stuff, I'm wondering, is this like when you're coming up with this idea of what you want to change the team into and where you want to take that culture or the tactics? Did you have anything that kind of precipitated that? Anything that you were looking at? Like you're watching a movie and you're like, man, we should do that. Or did somebody bring this idea up? So where did it kind of generate from?
nobody invents anything new, right?
Hmm.
And I stole from several units. And then put it all together into a different formula. But
Hmm.
I had close relations with LAPD SIS squad, and I don't know if you know much of their history, but they have a very similar model. But they're very heavy surveillance based.
Okay.
But then they also will go to direct action. But those guys and girls over there were fantastic. And, I interviewed a couple of them for a while. This is right when I got the detail and I wasn't yet kind of letting them know what was going to happen. But I interviewed them for a while. I then went up to Vegas Metro for some training and they were doing things a little different. So I kind of stole a couple of their things.
Hmm.
Went to LA Sheriff's Advanced SWAT School and they were also doing things differently. And so I stole some of their stuff too. And then you have to, and you'll know this, and everyone listening to this program who's a police officer knows this. Every department, every state, every province has their own, what's the word? They have their own, what are they willing to chew? And what are
Okay.
they, so what's our appetite for this?
Yeah.
And so you have to read the waters, right? You know, Phoenix may be more aggressive than Tucson. I'm not saying they are, but as an example, right? Edmonton may be a little more aggressive than Calgary. But what I began to do too is I brought a lawyer on board. So,
Yeah.
which was met with not open arms whatsoever.
Management must have liked that because they always like when if you can bring someone in to speak to the legal side right off the bat and you're like, no, they're fine. I've counseled them. Usually that I find they like.
They do. And he got assigned to us. I mean, he was working for the department as their attorney, but then got assigned to helping us rebuild, but then became an integral part of the team.
Yeah.
He would come to training with us. He was an Army guy as well. So he would come to training with us, so he knew what it felt like, what it looked like, what we were trying to accomplish. That way, when I would call him on stuff, he knew what it looked like. And that front loading that was incredibly important. Incredibly important.
Yeah, that is a massive thing I've been trying to get people to understand is like if anybody's going to work with our team and what we're doing, because we started with some legislation that nobody else is really doing except certain gang units throughout the province. And everybody wants to give their opinion, but nobody knows what it actually looks like in practice. So I was like, okay, you have all the theoretical knowledge, but you have zero practical experience in how this actually is carried out. Get the people on ride-alongs, get them training with you, like,
Yep.
let them actually see what it looks like, and then go, "Oh, yeah, that's why that subsection of that subsection works or doesn't work inside the what you're doing." So yeah, that is super important what you're doing there.
Nathan, and one of the other things, we kept running because we do damage quite a few cars, and I'm not talking ruin them, but they get paint scrapes on them from our tactics we use against vehicles, right? Or some compression areas on them. And we kept getting pushback from the civilian vehicle coordinator, right?
Yeah.
And we were trying to get our own dispatcher because we were running so many missions a day, 2 to 5 operations a day. So, I tried to get all these things and was met with no, 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 no. So what I did is I invited the dispatchers who are absolutely our lifeline. I mean, absolutely our lifeline. And the civilians that supported us in kind of support roles, right? I invited them to watch some of our training. And so they came to the training and they were completely shocked. They had no idea. They said, "We didn't have any idea you were doing that. We just thought you were smashing into cars." No, that's not what we're doing, right? Or we had no idea that's why you needed so many 37 millimeter rounds, right? Is because, oh, we see what you're doing now. Yeah, we don't want to shoot people. We'd rather use less lethal options, but we're going to use more of them.
Mhm.
So really bringing these support personnel out there really paid off just immensely, immensely. Because we got to stop this like we're some sort of secret unit. You're not dev crew, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's okay if the public sees what you do. And even though we were a covert unit, not within the police department, they can come watch us and
Mhm.
it educates people. So that was massive in starting to get what we wanted done.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, especially if you start trying to be the secret squirrel within the police world, people find out, and then maybe some of it's jealousy, but some of it people just think like, "Well, who are you, and why do you think you're so special?" type deal.
Right.
So yeah, that makes sense. Man, so much of this stuff resonates with me. I want to get onto the trapdoor tactics because I think it sounds really cool. And I like how you changed some of the style of what you were doing. So can you explain exactly what is trapdoor tactics, what it might look like to say carry out an operation using these?
Yeah. So trapdoor tactics is basically a combination of quite a few different things. The apprehension tactics are going to be kind of well known, around the countries. But you have open area tactics, subject to walking down a street or going through a field or so forth, front yard of a house. You got vehicle containment techniques, which is roadway type stuff. But we actually got away from any type of roadway stuff, and I'll get into that in a minute if you'd like me to.
Yeah.
And then we moved away from houses,
Mm.
and that was a big cultural. What of that word again? Cultural shift. We really got away from going into houses. We still did it when we had to, but instead of training CQB, you know, uh, once every 2 weeks, we trained it quarterly. That's how much we got away from going through houses
Okay.
and looking for people in houses. So, and then the big one for trapdoor tactics was environmental manipulation. And under under the principle, the risk assessment principle of why here, why now, would decide what type of trapdoor tactic we would use and how, the whether it would be dynamic, whether it would be passive, that type of thing. So what we did was another guy on my team, my ATL, my assistant team leader, a guy named Chris Marrero, who's a SME on force applications. We started designing kind of melding all these tactics together into kind of a movable package. So we were never stuck with, okay, we got to do a VCT, a vehicle containment technique on this. Well, if it changes in 5 seconds and the suspect goes, I'm just going to the trunk and going home, the fluidity of how these guys and girls trained was we could then implement an an open area tactic on that same subject as he turned to walk away from his car back to his house. So it was the ability to change on a moment's notice, yet still be incredibly aware of your surroundings, and to apply multiple type of tactics to a single person or multiple people in a very compressed urban environment.
Okay.
And you mentioned something earlier. And the thing that changed the most and caused us to develop it is we stopped chasing people. And that was the big one.
Do you mean like if they run away kind of thing, you're not chasing or in a vehicle or?
If people ran away, I would lose my mind on my team because the operation failed. Means we didn't have containment.
Okay, I see.
Means the tactics were applied improperly. If I heard anyone run or, hey, boss, they're running from us or foot pursuit, they knew they were going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Because we failed in our application. So what I mean by running away mostly is the tactics and the operations were designed to immediately contain the suspect and then apply more tactics to that suspect for compliance. So what used to happen was, you'd roll into the parking lot, jump out of the van like 1995, right? Try to grab the guy. He sees everyone getting out of the van, and then starts running.
Yeah.
And we found that what happens with that is nothing positive, because now we're running through an area. Our environment is continually changing with every step we're taking. He is preparing himself mentally to fight.
Yeah.
He is also looking for a place to escape. So am I going to create a hostage situation? Am I going to create, bad backdrops? So what we did was we changed it completely to where they have to enter our environment. And that environment is already set up. That environment has been manipulated. That environment has been approved. Our 360 is good. And once they step on the X, then the tactics are initiated, but the suspect is completely contained.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that could be a vehicle, it could be a sidewalk, but we never chased the suspect. They came to us. And sometimes, Nathan, that took hours. Sometimes it took days.
Yeah.
But we did not want to chase the person.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to ask too. Was how many times did you have to like how many operations before this thing would you say was like a success, and everybody kind of maybe felt comfortable doing all these things, like, or did you rep it out for a year before and then you did it the first time and it's like we'd been doing it for a year already?
It's a great question. And this is part of the discipline of training, right? So we began to roll it out in pieces slowly for about a year and a half. So as the training increased, we would then roll it out slowly. As we got a new piece of equipment, it became kind of to master that piece of equipment and its application. Keep in mind, as we're doing all that, we're also working with our legal counsel to ensure that our use of any type of equipment or tactic is legal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am not going to, the men and women who are doing the real heavy lifting, the investigators, they call us to arrest these people, but that really is only 2% of that entire process. And I do not want my team screwing up, 98% of their investigation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we rolled it out in pieces. It was pressure tested, legally vetted. We also had to ensure, and I know nobody likes to hear this term, and it, causes everyone to kind of, tense up, but We also have to look at the optics as well. Because, like I said earlier, yeah, we could roll 3 pieces of armor through a neighborhood, smash a door down with a boom, flashbang it, gas it. Okay, was that the best option?
Mhm.
Was that the best option? Sometimes that is, but what Phoenix found was that was rarely the best option.
Mhm.
That was kind of the final option. So once the team was all trained up, and I almost say it was blessed and gone fully operational, that was a year and a half that I think we could have done it sooner, but because I'm a freak about perfection, um, I probably added another 6 months to it
Yeah.
before they were fully operational on all pieces of equipment, all tactics, um, and most importantly for me, on their mindset.
Mhm.
That was the biggest one.
Yeah, you know what? I think maybe, I guess the public, I don't know if they're conditioned to be like this or maybe humans are normally like this, but they like to see a natural progression of the use of force, right? I've given you a warning and now the bigger bat's coming down and then I've given you another warning and now bigger things coming. I mean, sometimes people like to just see the bomb kind of get dropped on someone, but the natural progression, taking those steps really shows we've tried everything. And yeah, I can only give you so many warnings. I can only tell you so many times before I'm just going to make you do it. Right.
Right.
What I'm wondering too is what did the offenders or the people getting arrested, what was their response? And, do you have any kind of memorable ones? Anybody that really, was super surprised or like what's the reaction you're getting from people as they're doing this?
Yeah, one of our SOPs was we interviewed every offender after the apprehension. So, um, you know, I can think of one. He had committed a double homicide, gang member, very hardened individual. Was armed. Everyone said, "Oh my God, this is going to be it, guys." Because we heard that every guy we went to arrest, we heard that, right? And the thing with that is the tactics do not change. I don't care how dangerous you tell me, the tactics are the same. They will be applied the same, you know. And so this individual, uh, he had a car parked in a apartment complex he was hiding out in. We found him through our actually, the street crimes guys found him, who are just, like I've said before, masters of their universe when it comes to surveillance. And we were part of the same unit. They were undercover surveillance team, but we're the apprehension team. So we worked very closely, and they were very good at setting the table. I used to call it for us.
Mm.
They knew what pieces needed to be moved, and they would set the table. So they had set the table on this guy. He came out of his apartment, walked by them 2 or 3 times over 3 or 4 hours, so that he didn't feel there was anything wrong.
Mhm.
And, my guys would just watch him. And a couple times I heard, "Hey, boss, we can take him here." No, I want him so comfortable that he has no idea what's about to happen. So he went back in, came back out, went back in. Well, finally, the sun had got down enough. He comes walking out and he gets into his car, closes the door. With F.A.I.D vehicles on either side, rotate inward towards the doors, pin in the doors. We pin the back of the doors. Uh, put 2 flashbangs on the hood of his car, and we have immediate compliance. Immediate compliance. In fact, he's shaking. And I want to tell you one of the things. I mean, people pull body cams, but one of the thing that I watched, I never watched the suspect. The boys and girls who are doing the job, that are trained to do the job, they're going to do what they need to do, and they'll apply the force they need to apply. My job as a team leader is to watch what they are doing and watch our 360.
Mhm.
So as I was watching this incident, my ATL was giving him commands, and let me just the ATL, not all the team, which
Yeah,
is
very important.
we all yeah. And we always started with this look at me. We always identified ourselves first, of course, legally, but then my ATLs or whoever's in the camp always said, "Look at me." And that gentleman looked over, and all he sees is a carbine
Mhm.
on a light. But one thing that my guys are listening to this, I'm going to say pounded into them was calm. I don't want to hear let me see your fucking hands. I'll blow your head. If I heard that, you're probably going back to patrol.
Watch
You're
too
probably
many
going back.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like hearing that because that means you're scared.
Mhm.
When I hear cops yell like that, that means you're scared. When I hear cops very calm in a very chaotic situation, that means they are completely dialed in, highly trained individuals. So they told the guy, look at me. He starts looking at him. His hands are shaking. He says, I have a gun. We said, that's fine. Where is it at? He tells us. It's a regular conversation. Says, guns on the seat. That's fine. They pull him out the window. He's completely compliant. One thing I did as a team leader, I would go over to them and I would always, every single person in almost 7.5, 8 years, I would tell them, thank you for complying. Thank you for doing what you were told. We don't want anything bad to happen out here, so I appreciate that. Then one of my guys would come over and interview them. And that guy, he said, I had no idea you guys were there. He goes, I've been walking by these cars all day. And he goes,
Yeah.
when I first saw him, I was jacked up. He goes, the first time I came out, he said he had the gun in his waistband, and he did. We could see it. He said, the second time I didn't even have it. And then he goes, and then I got it now just because I was going to leave the neighborhood. But he goes, I had no clue. And he goes, I didn't have time to react because of the tactics that were used against him.
Yeah.
The disruption from the vehicle, the flashbangs. And then by the time you figure out what's going on, you already have multiple weapons pointed at you. And we were out of there, like I said earlier, probably within, I don't know, 2 minutes.
Wow.
We're gone out of that neighborhood. Yeah. That is major goal.
The calm part, I think that is a very good piece to mention. When you can show that you're calm, and it doesn't mean that, you're still gonna have those, the physiology is still gonna be, the higher heart rate and you're sweating and that type of stuff. But if you can show calmness, that really shows the person you're dealing with control, and that I'm in control of this situation here. And, based on what you're deciding to do, it's going to go a few different ways, but we're the ones in control when it comes down to it. I think that is very important, especially in the tactics side of things. I don't hear that a lot. I honestly can't, I've maybe once or twice in my whole career ever heard anybody even talk about that. And I've been through a lot of different training in, the dozen plus years I've been a cop.
Our team, and this kind of reiterates the importance of calm. Our team also was tasked, unfortunately, with arresting police officers, uh, high optic individuals, police officers, priests, teachers, government officials. So, we did have one of the police officers we arrested committed a violent crime, and he needed to be arrested. Unfortunately, wasn't really cooperating, and so they sent us out to go get him. And, that police officer's highly trained, is very attuned to his surroundings. So we put a plan in place, a special type plan in place. But, I grabbed my 3 primary guys, my kind of 3 tip of the spear guys who are going to be leading that operation. And I pulled them aside, each one of them. And I said, hey, are you prepared? Are you okay mentally to go gun up on this guy? And they said, to one of them, one of theirs credit, they go, hey boss, I know the guy, I know his wife. And I said, okay, you're going to be in the back, blocking traffic for us, right? Because we're in a neighborhood. But the other 2 said, yeah, we're good to go. So that operation went dynamic, and he was taken into custody without incident. And like earlier, we interviewed him, because who better to interview than a police officer, right? And he said the same thing. He said he knew that it was either SWAT or F.A.I.D because nobody was yelling.
Okay.
He knew it. And he said, I am going to do exactly what I'm told. And he said when he heard that nobody was yelling, these are the kind of different dudes. So I can't stress that enough. And my team will tell you they probably have PTSD from me yelling at them on that. And you're right. Everyone messes up once in a while, right? Of course, right? But it better be right 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Calm.
And that piece about being nice to people afterward, uh, that comes into play if you ever have to deal with somebody again. So when we deal with some of our gang members, some of the people involved in the organized crime, some of these people, like, they've got serious firepower, and if they wanted to take a shot at somebody, I mean, it could be a catastrophe, especially in some of these neighborhoods. But when we deal with them the first time and you show them some give and take, you have a little bit of sympathy maybe for them and their situation, and you're able to have a normal conversation with them, man, that pays dividends later on, because you do get some compliance with these people. And it's not to say that you don't go in and you're not still vigilant in there, and that you're not still uh, expecting the worst, right, and preparing for the worst. But when they see you, there's been a lot of times where we've had, like, okay, they go, I'm going to comply with you because I know you, or you treated me right the last time, or you helped me out, and I know you're doing the right things for the right reasons. I've had all those kind of things said to me. So yeah, I think that's very
Absolutely.
important in gaining compliance. It also helps the patrol members later on too. I've had that too, where I've given a bad guy shit sometimes when I hear that, hey, you're talking to people this way. Stop doing that. They're trying to just do their job out there. They got it, boss. Like, I'll listen. I won't give them trouble next time, kind of thing. So, yeah, it's very important part of the whole, all the tactics. That's the wrap up piece.
Absolutely. We had two people on my old squad, a guy and a girl. We had these same incidents where people's name would come up in the lottery again, like usual, just because of recidivism, right? And we had hit them, with dynamic operations prior, and these two people would be able to get phone numbers for these individuals,
Mm.
and they go, "We can do that again, or you can just meet me at the Circle K, and we'll make sure you don't have any weapons." And, then we just do it like an undercover deal, right? Where
Mm.
we would change the location at the last moment, do all that other stuff. But I can't tell you the amount of people that we talked in, or they just walked into police headquarters and met my detectives there
Yeah.
because they didn't want to go through that again.
Hmm.
And it's not a point of the violence. It's the point of, like you're saying, the discipline and the calm and the overwhelming action of it is they know they can't hide. They know they're going to miss something, and they know when they miss something, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's you just turn yourself in.
Yeah.
So,
Did you have any scenarios that really went sideways? Anything that was really bad, especially after you made this change and you brought in all these new tactics? Were there some of those kind of incidences where you're like, holy shit, this is the really bad one?
oh yeah, you know what? I don't care sitting up here whether it's tactical gang, Navy SEAL. I don't care if they say that every operation was perfect. They're full of shit. Um, you know, like I always said, when people ran, I knew we failed. I knew we failed. We F.A.I.D in the last 10 years has gotten into one OIS. That's it. One.
Which is crazy. Crazy to think. Yeah.
With trapdoor
Yeah.
tactics, right? So we initiated trapdoor tactics. That's one shooting. Other ones have happened as a result of compromised surveillance. So I think that the oh shit ones I'm thinking of was we were pressing the surveillance too hard. You know,
Okay.
we weren't disciplined in the surveillance enough. Uh, so the department, to their credit, they compensate for it. They know okay, this team is very good at surveillance, but they're also a tactical apprehension team, so they have to go direct action eventually. So they brought over the street crimes team, which is I think like 8 people at the time, who are nothing but surveillance. And I'm talking, they could be in my house right now. I wouldn't even know. I mean, they're so good. Like they're just so good. And they started attaching them to us. So that kind of solved the compromised surveillance shootings that were starting to take place. Um, you know, this isn't me. And please, I can't stand when people get on these podcasts and I did this, I did that. This was a complete team effort, right?
Mm.
With the people that work for me. And if somebody didn't see something or somebody saw something they didn't like, anyone, I don't care if you were hit the team 2 days ago or you've been on the team 20 years. If anybody saw something they didn't like, I would hear the word abort.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you that hour to your team with that word is so important. And I think that saved us a lot of shit sandwiches,
Mm.
a lot, because, I like to really kind of be obsessive on keeping my eyes open. I'm never looking through, you're not leading if you can see a red dot, right? The old saying. So I was never looking through a red dot or tried not to. I tried to look around me, but I'll tell you what, probably no less than 20, 30 times in all my years there, somebody said abort. And I said, what the hell? What are they talking about? But when they said it, it was done.
Mm.
The operation was stood down, and then we would move it. And we'd always have debriefs and everything. Sometimes it was valid. Sometimes it was like, maybe a little, we probably could have done it. But I would say more times than not, it was valid. And it saved us the bad times.
Yeah, you definitely, I guess, in those type of scenarios, you want to be more on the safe side. Like if you abort, at least everyone's going home alive, and then now we can work up from that rather than we just allow it to happen. You're like, oh, critical mistake. Now somebody's shot that didn't need to get shot, right?
And that's the big one, Nathan. You're absolutely right. And I tell people this in training, right? When we're training them, um, my goal is to, first of all, not have somebody in the community hurt that's not involved in this. Second of all, I don't want a police officer hurt, and I don't want them hurt mentally because of an OIS that didn't need to happen. And I also don't want the suspect hurt. And cops are very, oh, what the hell? Who cares? No, actually, I care. And the community cares, and the justice system cares, and your police department cares.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we don't need to shoot someone, then how about we not do that?
Yeah.
And so let's utilize the proper tactics, the proper mindset, the proper risk assessment model so that bad things don't happen. Because, like I said earlier, optics matter.
Yeah.
Optics matter. So,
Well, I guess that's a good spot to move on to the why here, why now. So I want to ask about this, how this was kind of developed, and what got you into this mindset of why here, why now, why asking that.
yeah, that really became a pounded in risk assessment model into F.A.I.D and all members of F.A.I.D. And even the SWAT team adopted it, and they won't admit that they did, but they did. It's always a rivalry, right?
Yeah.
The two brothers rolling around on the front lawn fighting, right? But then you'll always beat up the neighbor together,
Yeah.
but the why here, why now, we started to adopt it before a certain lieutenant came on board. And we started slowing things down because, like I said, the cowboy stuff had ended catastrophically. It just had. And so a certain lieutenant came on board, a guy by the name of Mark. I'll hold his last name, but he came on board, and we were doing an operation one night, and you read about it in the book. And we had a plan together. It was super easy. It was going to be a high five incident, and we're all done, and we can get out there and go enjoy our weekend at a hotel. But we knew the suspect was armed, but we had an area of apprehension where he was going to come to RX. And my lieutenant called me, and he wasn't even out there. And Mark said, "Hey, I got to ask, why are we doing this here, and why are we doing this now?" And I go, "Mark, I just read you the whole op plan. Like, do you need
Yeah.
finger puppets? Or, I mean, this thing's perfect." Well, unfortunately for all of us, Mark had a very deep tactical resume as well as a very deep investigational resume. So he said, take a look around, give me a call back.
Mm.
So I started looking around. That's when I noticed way, way, way off on the other side of the hotel were a bunch of sport vans with a bunch of looked like baseball gear piled up beside them.
Yeah.
And that's dark 30, but someone's going to be coming out. I don't know if they're a kid baseball team or an adult baseball team. More importantly, that whole hotel was filled with people. Now, would we have been successful? Most likely, because he was coming out of the hotel, entering into a cemented dumpster area to throw stuff away. Would we have been successful? Yes. But what Mark was saying is, why here, why now meant more the damage, the collateral damage that was going to be caused. We were going to scare the shit out of the people in that hotel
Mm-hmm.
as they heard multiple flashbangs go off. The hotel staff have been cooperating with us. Now all their customers are scared. They're going to lose business. They're never going to cooperate again with the police, you know. Multiple ripple effects that I did not take into account. So the why here, why now turned into not here, not now. So we sat on that hotel, and I called Mark back and had to explain some small items I had missed, you know.
Yeah.
And but he said, "Okay." I mean, to his credit, he's a leader. He said, "Okay, I appreciate your honesty. What do you want to do?" And I said, "We're going to wait till he leaves." Okay. He goes, "I don't care how long it takes. Let's do that." A few days later, he checks out, goes to a store, and we take him off in the store parking lot with no incident, you know. So did it take us longer? Yes. But we did not let ego-driven tactics take control of that. So the why here, why now is really to pound ego-driven tactics into the dirt where they belong.
Mm-hmm.
And the risk assessment principle really deals with slow down, calm down, and is what we're doing, what we should be doing. Yeah, of course, we're legally able to do it. Everyone always said that legally we're good. I don't care if we're good. I know we're good. We're not doing anything illegal. What I care about is, should we be doing it right here, right now?
Yeah.
And that principle really became the foundation for us.
Well, I think a good piece that you have in there too is the humility to at least say, "Oh, I was wrong," or "Yeah, I overlooked this." Right? That's again, get rid of the ego in there because a lot of people seem to have trouble with that, especially once they're in those leadership roles. They don't want to be told they're wrong. They don't want to be told that they missed something, and they just kind of forge ahead. Maybe they think, you know what, that thing I overlooked, it's not a big deal, or it won't really come into play. Maybe it does. And then you're really in up shit's creek, right?
Absolutely. And the thing with tactical teams especially is because you're so highly trained, and when I say tactical, I mean narcotic tactics, gang tactics, SWAT, F.A.I.D, there's so many teams that do their own apprehensions, right?
Mhm.
On high risk offenders. So, but the, the big thing though is really to train that ego driven tactics out of your decision making. Really train it out of all operational aspects.
Mhm.
I can't tell you the amount of times my team told me I was wrong on some of my decisions. I didn't like it,
Mhm.
but you got to hear it. And what I see across kind of the open source videos I see coming out on apprehensions is it's ego driven tactics taking over. Shootings that didn't need to happen. I can't even tell you, Nathan, how many people we let walk. The tactics were good, but the venue was changing. It was too fluid. The venue just kept changing on us, right?
Yeah.
We couldn't manipulate the environment to where we needed to, so we let them walk, and then we regroup and go again. And one of the big things, and I know you've heard this, every person has heard this in our profession is, oh, well, if we let him walk, he's just going to shoot everyone. Or what about the poor patrol officer at 3 o'clock in the morning? Oh, first of all, what was the original crime?
Yeah.
It was probably a drug dealer shooting a drug dealer. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Um, and if we push the button on this and we get them on the run, that is where we're going to run into problems. And you asked the question earlier, that's where we did run into problems a lot of times. We pushed the button when we shouldn't have. Now the guy's running. Well, now we got all sorts of problems,
Yeah.
all sorts of problems. So,
Just this past summer, yeah, it was August. I was in Denver, and outside of our hotel, I think it was like the first night we were there. Wake up in the morning, it's like 6, maybe 7. Wake up, and I step out the door. And I was right on the first floor. I'm the second room from the end of the hotel. So basically, I just look left, and I could see straight out a window, and I see like 10 police vehicles. It was all US Marshals, and they had this guy. Like, I walked to the end of the hall and see what's going on. And There's a guy right in the corner of the parking lot. There's trees just kind of encircling the back of his car on the side and a big dumpster right beside him. And they had just kind of got him all in there. Nobody even touched his vehicle, nothing like that. But it's just like they'd maneuvered in. I didn't hear a damn thing.
Yeah.
I had no idea that this even happened. I'm just 2 rooms from the end of the hotel. So I don't know if you train them or maybe they found this out somewhere, but it sounds exactly like that. I'm just thinking like, wow, because there was a bunch of people down there. And yeah, I look and they've got 2 guys in handcuffs and it's all done.
Yeah, the U.S. Marshals do a great job. I mean, we did not. We were one of the only units that were standalone, meaning we didn't have a marshals attached to us.
Oh,
It's
okay.
pretty rare. Yeah, it's pretty rare in the U.S. not to have the marshals attached to you. Every time we did work with them, they're fantastic. I mean, they're a great resource. They're fantastic. The Phoenix Police, they were part of the team before I got there. And then the Phoenix Police realized that the federal way of doing things is a lot different than the Phoenix way of doing things. So
Right.
they went away from it, and then we just kind of became supplemental to each other. We'd hand the football off between agencies all the time.
Oh, very cool.
But yeah, but a very solid group of men and women over at the Marshals.
Just as we're kind of coming up to the end of our time here, I want to talk about Bishop One. So
Yeah.
this is your company now. What? How did this kind of start, and what are you doing with the company?
So I'm trying to preach the good word
Yeah.
across 2 countries here, that trying to preach the why now principle. And like I'm not going to repeat myself, but it's easy to read a book, and I've done this, and you read a book and you go, you know what, I get it now. I'm just going to apply it to my team, right? And that's amazing. You can do that in just reading a book and apply it, because it took me a year and a half to learn how to apply it properly, right? So
Yeah.
I guess there's some magicians out there, but what I want what I want to do and what I'm trying to do is teach departments, and it doesn't always have to be SWAT teams or something super sexy or that thinks they're super sexy. It's the people out there putting hands on people who are arresting them in plainclothes fashion, or they're part of a gang squad, they're part of a narcotic task force, auto theft task force, SWAT team, and teach them the tactical apprehension model that we used that was very successful. Teach the mindset, teach the tactics, teach the trapdoor tactics like you and I were talking about, and teach it and all that all the time weaving in the why here, why now risk principle, right? So we have a 3-day course. It's very comprehensive. It's fast moving. There's no death by PowerPoint. There's also multiple scenarios people have to run through. And, I teach a large portion of the first day of it on, team concept, operational concepts, the why here, why now principle. And then I have 3 guys who are still currently on F.A.I.D, um, who are pressure testing everything still daily
Okay. Yeah.
and still running and doing the job, right? Who also come out and help teach all that stuff.
Mm.
So the students walk away with the sense of, okay, wait a minute. If I slow down, I'm actually going to get better.
Hmm.
If I look around, I'm actually going to get better. If I apply trapdoor tactics to a suspect rather than chasing a suspect, we're going to be better. In the community and the department, the footprint that is left with trapdoor tactics is minuscule compared to an all-out, you know, armor rollout with a SWAT team, right?
Yeah.
And so that, like I told you before, the city of Phoenix and that forward-looking commander, that is what the big kind of bow on top of the present is you're really lowering your footprint. Um, just as a side note, knock on wood, but talk to the guys now, but even when I was there, 7.5 years, we never had an internal investigation done on us for use of force. We never had civil litigation on our team.
Mm.
And, you know, we were under strict orders, stay off the news, never be on the news. A lot of the apprehensions that were in the paper, they would just say it was done by someone else. So you don't have a bunch of glory seekers there. Nobody's chasing ribbons, you know?
Yeah.
So, but it's the idea of just bringing that mindset, bringing these tactics to these teams and making everyone safer.
Cool. And I would say based on the sample size that you have to go off of, I mean, you're doing hundreds of apprehensions in a year. Uh, I think you got a pretty good sample size to make your case for the tactics,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you still got the relevancy and recency in there. So, I mean, you can't ask for much more than that, right? These are time tested and still being used today, so people can see, if something needed to change, it's been worked on and it's been going through. So, yeah, very cool. I like it.
And the big thing I'll just close on, Nathan, is, departments struggle, especially larger ones, to get out of their echo chambers of training.
Yes.
When I took F.A.I.D, we brought in outside people to train us, and there's some great agency or people we use like Centrifuge, uh, down in the States. I think there's Centrifuge up here too.
Yep.
But we brought in uh ITTS a long time ago, and then we Blue Bearing. Now they're looking at bringing in. We had another trainer for CQB with True Kinetics. So we tried to get out of the echo chamber, and people go to classes. They come back and they go, "Okay, guys, I'm going to train everything," but it's still the same voices, it's still the same tone, it's still the same area. And that's why I think it's very important, especially if you're looking at changing a concept or introducing a concept, of bringing in outsiders to train who are experts in their field, because it's somebody different and it's a different voice. So,
Do you need obviously if you're traveling to do this training, are you bringing anything with you, or do you need like a shooting range, or is it just done like you're doing it in classroom and just kind of running scenarios like that? Or
no, we have some stuff we bring with us, depending upon the state or province, of course, and the laws surrounding it, right? But it is classroom and scenario based.
okay,
So we need a classroom, but we try to spend as little time in there as possible. But then we spend more time out in scenarios. So we need a big lot.
okay,
Gun range is great. At this point, we're not doing live fire. And guys go, "Oh, I want the live fire. I want to, pretend I'm a SEAL team." Okay, but I need you to learn the tactics and the mindset. I'm not going to teach you how to shoot a gun. That's your department's job.
yeah, yeah,
We are looking at introducing a live fire portion of it, like a tactical and apprehension program too, which will be live fire. But I found, and me personally, and as well as the guy on my team, when we're talking, when you put live rounds and things, that's all people concentrate on, which they should concentrate on because of the danger of it. But I really want you to focus on the tactics and the mindset.
yeah. First, one thing before the other. So
Exactly, exactly.
we're just at the end of our time. How can people best find you, your work, get a hold of you? So, what kind of mediums are you using here?
Yeah, and I'm learning the power of social media quickly.
Yeah,
But yeah, you can get a hold of me at Chris, and that's CHRIS at bishop1training.com. And the Bishop One is all spelled out. So
cool.
yeah, and then on there's a contact form that'll go directly to me. You can also just go right to www.bishop1training.com. So, and that'll put you over the website, and you can get an idea of the background of all the guys that are training, as well as our mentality, kind of what the course looks like. And then, but if you want to get a hold of me directly, just Chris at bishop1training.com.
Awesome. I'll make sure I put those up in the episode description, and I'll remind people to share, comment, like anything that they can to help you out. Also, the Quiet Professional podcast. So, thanks for being on the show today, and hang on the line for 2 seconds.
Yeah, thank you very much. A lot of fun.